Do you think it's a bit early to talk about sexual stuff? Or some of us is not awake yet. I think this will probably wake us all up. There is a book out there that costs $1,000 to buy. It's called Disorder in the American Court, Real Proceeding Between Lawyers and Witness. And they publish it every year. And this is some of the real proceeding between the lawyer and the witness in the American court. This is not joke, this is real. Sorry for the lawyers in the audience. I think this will wake us up. The lawyers ask, what was the first thing your husband said to you that morning? He said, "Where am I, Kathy? And why did that upset you?" "My name is Susan." Are you sexually active? No, I just lie there. This medical condition, does it affect your memory at all? Yes. In what way does it affect your memory? I forget. You forget. Can you give us an example of something you forget? Now, doctor, isn't true that when a person dies in his sleep, he doesn't know about it until the next morning? Did you actually pass the bar exam? Were you present when your picture was taken? Are you kidding me? Lawyer, doctor, how many of your autopsies have you performed on dead people? All of them. The live one put up too much of a fight. See, this is real. This is not joking. This is in the court. Did you recall the time you examined the body? The autopsy started around 8:30 p.m. And Mr. Denton was dead at that time? If not, he was by the time I finished. Okay, one more. Are you qualified to give a urine sample? No. Did you check for blood pressure? No. Did you check for breathing? No. So, then it was possible that the patient was alive when you began the autopsy? No. How can you be so sure, doctor? Because his brain was sitting on my desk in a jar. I see. But could that patient have still been alive nevertheless? Yes, it is possible that he could have been alive and practicing law. Is there an echo here? Can someone fix it? Is this better? Yes. Better? All right. Okay, let's do some serious stuff this morning. If you have the Bible with you, if you have a smartphone with you or iPad, please turn to the Gospel of John, chapter 8. We're reading from verse 1 to verse 11. If you have a phone with you, iPad, turn into the Gospel of John, chapter 8, 1 to 11. The Apostle John, this is his account of this story here. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives early in the morning at dawn. He came back into the temple court, and the people came to him in crowds. He sat down and was teaching them. When the scribes and Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, they make her stand in the middle of the court and put the case before him. "Teacher," they said, "this woman has been caught in the very act of adultery. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such offenders shall be stoned to death. But what do you say?" to do with her. What is your sentence?" This they said to try to test him, hoping they may find a charge on which to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger. However, when they persisted with the question, he raised himself up and said, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." Then he bent down and went on writing on the ground with his finger. They listened to him, and then they began going out, conscience-stricken, one by one, from the oldest down to the last one of them, till Jesus was left alone with the woman standing there before him in the center of the court. When Jesus raised himself up, he said to her, "Woman, where are your accuser? Has no man condemned you?" She answered, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said, "I do not condemn you either. Go on your way, and from now on, sin no more." Now, we heard this account from a man. Now, listen to the woman herself. Listen to the account from the woman herself. This is from Walking with Gospel Woman. "I felt a rough hand on my shoulder, pushing me toward Jesus, causing me to stumble, and fell at his feet. I kept my eyes down, knowing that the gaze of the whole crowd was fixed on me. Teacher," one of the Pharisees said, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses said she should be stoned to death. What do you say?" There was a complete hush. Jesus was trapped. I knew it. He was trapped. How could he disagree with the law of Moses? There was no alternative. He would have to condemn me to death. My body started to shake uncontrollably. As I crouched there, my face in my hands, the silence was broken by a scratching sound. I raised my head slightly up to see what was going on and realized that Jesus had bent over and was writing in the dust with his finger, quite close to me. What was he writing? Only the teacher and I were so close enough to see. It was the commandments that God had given to Moses, starting from, "You must have no other God before me." The teachers of the law and the Pharisee grew impatient, demanding a reply to the question, and Jesus just continued writing, "You must not make for yourself an idol of any kind." "Answer us," one shouted. "You must not misuse the name of the Lord of God," he wrote. Then he stood up and looked straight at them. "The one who has never sinned should be the first to throw a stone." At that moment, I heard a wail, and my heart was torn apart. It was the cry of my son. Instinctively, my eyes turned to the direction of the cry, and there he was, standing next to my husband, clinging to him, his face streaked with tears. My eyes met those of my husband for just a second. I saw there the agony of a betrayed man. I saw Jesus look at them too. His eyes were filled with deep compassion, as if he understood pain and betrayal. He bent down again and continued to write, "Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy." I heard desperate shout for mercy and realized that they were coming from my own lips. In self-protection, I curled my body over my knees, wrapping my hands around my head, and awaited the first blow. Silence. Only the scratching of the writing was audible. "Honor your father and mother." The stillness was broken by the sound of footsteps, at first near and then fading away into the distance. Silence again. Then the scratching continued. "You shall not murder." There were more footsteps. I hardly dare read what Jesus wrote next. "You shall not commit adultery." My shame and my pain well up inside me. I want to talk to the rabbi, explain and try to justify myself. I had not set out to be unfaithful to my husband. It was years of loneliness, the absence of gentle words, loving touch, or shared laughter. And then the discovery of all this in the arms of another man. I had taken a terrible risk to feel alive and wanted. The words remained within in the dust in front of me so close that I could touch them. I sensed movement behind me. Surely now that they could see these words, the first stone would be thrown. But there was not a thud, not a word. So the silence and the scratching continued. You must not steal, Jesus wrote. All the while the crowd was motionless, while behind me the footsteps continued, at first loud and then dying away. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. Bit by bit, I straightened my body. I dared to turn to look. They have left. Every single one of them. The religious leaders have gone. On the edge of the crowd, I could see my husband and son waiting. Waiting for what? You must not covet. Jesus stood up looking at me. Is that not what I have been doing, coveting what I did not have? Jesus slowly took in the scene around me, around him, the crowd, my family, the empty space where the Pharisee have stood. He said gently to me, where are those who accuse you? Did not even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, I whispered. With great authority and for all to hear, Jesus said, neither do I condemn you. Now go and sin no more. Now we look at the culture, a shame and honor culture. Now let's look at the plot. There's a game plan there. Just like election, you have to have a game plan. For one guy is sunny ways, sunny ways, sunny ways. For the other guy, some other way. We won't get into that this morning. So the game plan of the Pharisees and the scribes is that they want to trap Jesus, to trick him, to try to trap him in the tension between justice and mercy. What is your sentence, Jesus? If Jesus say, apply justice and stone the woman, they will say, Jesus, you're not merciful. If Jesus said, spare her and show her compassion, they will say, Jesus, you know nothing about justice. You know nothing about the law of Moses. They try to trap him. So we have the culture there. We have the plot, the game plan. Now, the next act. What happened next is totally unexpected by everyone. It's just totally unexpected. It just floors you. Verse 6, Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his fingers. Now, Jesus does not want to look at the woman. Why? Because looking at her, in doing so, he is joining the community to participate in shaming her. Jesus, our God in incarnation, does not come into the world to shame us. That's not his mission. He comes into our world to identify with us and to show solidarity. By not participating in shaming her, Jesus is telling the woman, you're not on your own. You're not on your own. Emmanuel, God with you. God with us. Jesus knows in a very short period of time, he will be just like the woman, half naked, totally alone and abandoned, and the whole world shame him on the cross. Just like the whole community is shaming the woman. He knows. He will just like the woman in a short period of time. He wants to identify with us, with our pain and our shame. And Jesus sees things differently. Things don't have to be this way. Things don't have to be this way. Verse 7, let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. Now the scribe, the Pharisee, thought that in order to maintain a sense of wholesomeness in the community, they have to get rid of the woman who is the pollutant, the contagious sinner, the scapegoat. But Jesus say, look at yourself first. Look at yourself first. There's no scapegoat in the community. There's no scapegoat in any community. There's no scapegoat in any family, in any marriage, and church community. There's no scapegoat. Look at yourself first. Look at ourselves first. It's a consistent teaching of Jesus. Gospel Matthew chapter 7, 1-5. First, get the beam of timber out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the tiny particle out of your brother's eye. Gospel Luke chapter 18, 9-14. For everyone who exalts himself will be humble, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. Things don't have to be this way, folks. Things don't have to be this way in your marriage. Things don't have to be this way in the way you interact with your children. Things don't have to be this way in the way you treat your staff. Things don't have to be this way in your habits, going to pornography to seek comfort and soothing. Things don't have to be this way that you have an emotional connection with someone online who is not your husband. Things don't have to be this way that you have not talked to Jesus personally for a long time. Things don't have to be this way. I have bought a few copies of Pure Heart, A Man's Guide to Purity in a Sexual World, down there in a table. It's $10, cash or check. If you want to find out more about what pornography is really about and all the ways and the strategy to overcome it, could be a good gift for a family member, an adult son, a grandson, or a friend that you mentor. You are welcome to pick up a copy during the break time. Things don't have to be this way, folks. Jesus telling the woman, you're not on your own. Emmanuel, God with you. Jesus telling her, I identify with you. I stand alongside with your shame and suffering. I am with you. Jesus telling the scribe and Pharisee and the whole community, things don't have to be this way. Examine yourself first. Now the community listens. Conscience stricken, one by one, old and young, men and women, left. I have a hunch that someone are so stricken by his or her conscience, they will put some clothing on the woman to cover her up, to bring her back some dignity and honor. Verse 10, 11. When Jesus raised himself up, he said to the woman, Woman, where are your accusers? Has no man condemned you? She answered, No one, Lord. And Jesus said, I do not condemn you either. Go on your way, and from now on, sin no more. Now, go on the way is not much about, okay, I did not condemn you, you can go home now, you can go home, go away, and you will sin no more right away. The gospel scenes, they are the temple court, the crowd of people, the woman, Jesus, and then the scribes and Pharisees. Let's look at the culture at that time. At that time, the culture was a shame and honor society, a shame and honor culture. In a shame and honor culture, the man is supposed to have a good control of the woman, keep the woman in line. And when the woman, the wife, engaged in an affair, she brought shame to the man, the husband. In order to bring honor back to the man has to get rid of the woman who is seen as a pollutant to the family, a pollutant to the whole community, a pollutant to the whole town. And when you get rid of her, you cannot touch her. Why? Because she's a pollutant. She's morally unclean. She's contagious. And therefore, stoning her is a way to get rid of her without touching her. In the gospel scene, the whole community shamed the woman. She's probably naked or half naked. I can hear the crowds from old to young, men and women, are shouting and yelling at her, "Whore, whore, whore! Slut, slut, slut!" What a bitch you are. Horrible, horrible names that we call women. Horrible. Have you been calling names? There are many horrible names we call women and kids. The woman must feel so alone and abandoned. So alone and abandoned over there. Do you know what is the worst thing a man can do to a woman? The worst thing a man can do to a woman is to make her feel alone. Alone in the marriage, alone to do everything in the home, alone and cannot connect with her husband. Do you know what is the worst thing a woman can do to a man? Is to make him feel inadequate. Nothing I do is good enough for you. Nothing I do meet your standard. Nothing I do meet your expectation. Nothing I do is spiritual enough for you. The woman must feel so ashamed and unworthy. The crowds are calling her nasty names and chanting, "You're no good to your husband. You're no good to the community. You're no good to the town." It's not what he has done is no good. Who she is no good. The person is no good. Do you know there's a difference between guilt and shame? Guilt tells you you have made a mistake. I am so sorry. I have done something to hurt you. Please forgive me. I want to apologize. I want to make sure I will not do this again. It's so painful that I commit this mistake. I can commit myself not to hurt you again. Guilt has a way out. I can do something about it. But shame tells you, you are the mistake. You, the person, is the mistake. And shame comes from such tremendous pain. Now, shame and guilt are universal because it's dated back to the Garden of Eden. When a man and woman disobey in the garden, right away they know they've done something wrong. So right away they find something to cover themselves. That is guilt. And when they find out God is looking for them in the garden, they want to hide. That is shame. They know they're not worthy to see God. Shame is always manifest in the context of a relationship. I'm not good enough for my father. My sister's prettier than me. I'm not as smart as my brother. That is shame. And shame comes with so many shame tape, like a tape running in our mind. And that's why it's so painful. And these are the common shame tape that run in our mind. Especially for those who grew up with a history of addiction in the family. The shame is enormous. And for those who grew up with a history of abuse in that family, The shame, the pain is enormous. Or grow up with a set of parents who are controlling or who are very critical. The shame and the pain is immense. Shame comes with this type of shame tape. I am unworthy. I'm stupid. I'm ugly. I'm fat. I'm inadequate. I'm a mistake. I'm nothing. Useless. A loser. I'm no one. I'm nothing but a failure. I'm too old to be of much importance anymore. I am a has-been. I can't do anything right. I will fail. I have no value. If I talk, people will know I'm not smart. I'm not a good spouse. I deserve the hurts life has given me, not as good as others. No one would love me if they knew all my secrets. Can't measure up. Can't believe God would forgive me for what I have done. No one would want me. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. It's always about the person. Because we're not living in a shame-based society. We're living in a guilt-based society. If you know someone coming from the Middle East, Korean, Chinese, India, they are shame-based. They know what shame is. Don't shame my name. Don't shame my village. You are not allowed to date a white boy. If you continue to date a white boy, I'll kick you out. We are guilt-based. So we don't know much about shame. And some of us, we don't know, we carry this shame and pain with us over the years. It's painful, it's not happy. So we have to do something to make that pain more bearable. And according to Dr. Brené Brown, one of the best shame researchers I have seen from our Houston, Texas, according to her, we do 3 things to make our shame and our pain more bearable. She called it 3 P's. Pleasing, performing, perfection. Pleasing, performing, perfecting. Pleasing, performing, perfecting. Pleasing, take care of everyone. The last one to take care of is who? Me. Because I'm not important. They are more important. Make everyone happy. Cannot say no. Performing. Everything is measured by performance. Work, work, work. Many become a workaholic, including minister, become a workaholic in the ministry. And feel responsible for everything. And perfecting. Become a perfectionist. Make no mistake. Expect everyone, you don't make mistake either. Pleasing, performing, perfecting. And for some people, that shame and that pain is so much. They want to run away from the pain, to a place there's no pain, no rejection. And that's the world of pornography. In the world of pornography, there's no rejection. In the world of pornography, there's tons of soothing and comfort because of the woman's body, because of the breast. The breasts have a maternal meaning. Soothing, comforting. I told a man coming to see me for treatment of the pornography addiction, you're not looking for sex. You're looking for soothing, looking for comfort. And pornography becomes a highly addictive pain relief medication for those men.